Cherry blossoms bloom within the grasp of death. What are you hiding inside? Maya?
Hello there. So, I played Silent Hill's Short Message, and I have thoughts. 1, 2, and 3 are all in my top 10 games of all time. And it was interesting to get a true, complete Silent Hill game since Book of Trash 12 years ago. Obviously, not counting Ascension, I don't know what that was. And while I do have a lot of positives to say, I think the bottom line for this is the Short Message is unfortunately pretty bad. But it could have been pretty great. No, really. Hear me out. We start up the game and it puts us in the shoes of Anita, a young, troubled woman who finds herself trapped in a derelict apartment complex. She's looking for her friend Maya while texting her other friend Amelie. And we play the game looping through this building a few times as she does, learning more and more about her tragic backstory as we go in true Silent Hill tradition. Well, true Silent Hill 2 tradition, it was really only that one that did that. To get the elephant out of the room, yes, this project is clearly Konami's attempt to recreate the success of PT, from it being a free first-person game about a character stuck in a loop, to the way the monster carries itself, to the reuse of cockroaches and fridges. Overall though, it's a very different experience, you'll be glad to hear. Even if some of that latter stuff is pretty shameless, I wouldn't be surprised if it was all publisher mandated. Starting up the game though, the first thing you'll notice is the pretty nice art direction and environmental detail. The apartment complex seems to be inspired by Cabrini Green, I'd guess, as seen in Candyman. An oppressively depressing apartment complex with the residents' inner frustrations sprayed onto the walls through graffiti. It also definitely mixes in elements of Kowloon, an infamous slum in Hong Kong where residents were left to fester, crammed into one another. They even make reference to this building being funded by a Chinese corporation. The whole place feels scummy and grimy, and it's truly uncomfortable to be in. But, as will become a running theme here, it's not all perfect. It is a little hit and miss. For every truly interesting art piece on the wall, there's going to be some art graduate, my parents don't get me tier stuff just around the corner. Not least of which are Maya's murals. We track them down throughout the game, and they're meant to be these amazing works of art that move people and built her a giant audience online. But they're kind of more like basic stuff you'd see on Tumblr or DeviantArt. I mean, you could probably suspend your disbelief that her work is that good, if not for it being surrounded by those higher quality pieces. But I would be lying if I said the game didn't look good.
Nice.
The second thing you'll quickly notice is Anita's got quite the mouth on her.
Everyone's losing their futures. That's all adults are. A slave to the system. I know what's inside, and I can't look away. Here it is. What's this letter? I know what's inside. CB. Cherry blossom. That's Maya's signature. She's amazing.
No matter what you look at, you can bet she's gonna explain it to you.
Antidepressants. I've taken enough medication. These Maya's sketches. I jumped off the building.
One of the biggest complaints with Short Message is its lack of subtlety. Pretty much everything about it is blunt. If you're expecting the game to let you sit with any emotions or read between the lines like old times, think again. An example. As we progress through the apartment, we learn that Anita is also an artist, though she has a serious inferiority complex about Maya's popularity. It's a part of Anita that could be communicated very easily. Have a look at the graffiti and say something like, "Oh, I could never paint this." Or have a look at Maya's follow account and just sigh. Instead, we have to listen to her ramble on and on about these thoughts in such detail.
Even more followers. No one is ever going to notice me.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Less is more, show don't tell. We're all familiar with these basic tenets of creative writing. Having Anita be like this makes her feelings come across as melodramatic and artificially constructed. As an audience, we feel the game is talking down to us, and just in general, having a character who won't stop talking just gets annoying.
I'm trapped. I've always been trapped.
Oh, shut up!
And good lord, someone get this bitch an inhaler. It's a very common amateur writing issue, a lack of confidence in the audience leading to over-explaining everything out of fear they'd miss something or have an interpretation that wasn't intended. And this key failing is kind of immediately signaled to us when we start up the game. Now, I think a warning before the title screen is fine, gives people who might get upset about this subject material either the chance to consent to experiencing it or a chance to bow out. Even if this particular one is a bit indulgent, I mean, is Konami really the best avenue for help? The issue is not the trigger warning, obviously. The issue is they play the warning 5 times. 5 times in a 90-minute game. Whenever you reach the roof of the building, Anita will recap some kind of revelation about what's happening that we just experienced, from her jealousy to remembering Maya's suicide to her own childhood abuse. Each one leading to her jumping off, followed by this scream. No joke, you see it so often my wife and I actually started laughing whenever it clumsily popped up. They're gonna show it again. To put it into perspective, it'd be like if Silent Hill 2 showed you a trigger warning 35 times throughout its runtime. Once is responsible, twice is considerate, 5 times is overkill. Immersion is so important in a horror title. The original Silent Hills famously had 0 UI elements just for this reason, Bloober Team. I think if they were this scared about covering these topics, they shouldn't have been covering them. And I think that insecurity seeps into the story and negatively affects it. With each death, Anita reawakens back in the building, each loop revealing more information as the whole place deteriorates. As you go, you probably were able to guess that Maya committed suicide, and if you guessed that, then you probably already guessed that Anita had something to do with it. It's all standard stuff, but one of the better twists is that while Anita was getting some harassment online due to a side plot about her seeking praise through posting sexy pics on Twitter, the real bullying we see was actually directed towards Maya. It's one of the examples of an actual good recontextualization of those cringy notepad set pieces that had happened.
Loser! Stupid! Liar! Crazy! Crybaby! Ugly! I hate you, dumb! Go away!
You should be ashamed of yourself, moron!
How could you do such a thing?
I hate you!
You're stupid and ugly and I wish you would die.
You should kill yourself, and you're really stupid.
But, like everything else, the way the game tackles the subject is a mixed bag. The way bullying is portrayed is a very after-school special tier take, one of the most egregious examples of how blunt the game can be.
Get out, you freak!
Get him out of here! He's got AIDS!
You cannot pull punches on how vicious bullying can be especially in an M-rated game, or it's inherently going to seem silly. Now, you obviously don't go overboard. Throwing bottles is about as far as the violence should go. But instead of having them say, "Go away, you idiot," you gotta just go for it with a "fuck off, cunt." Instead of having them post, "Your art sucks, lol," have them steal one of her sketchbooks and scribble over her work. I mean, that shit happened in my school to more than one person. It's so appropriate that the bullies in this game are depicted as these cartoon nasty scarecrows with evil frowny faces. The whole element is juvenile. But, you know, mixed bags have good things in them too. I did like how the pressure of how young people present their online self was shown. And it's probably because it was a secondary element to the story. The model for Anita is great because they present her as a normal person with normal flaws. A core design principle the original Team Silent used that was dropped after they disbanded.
It's not perfect, but if always she's perfect, I guess you won't love her. You're in love with her because she's human.
Anita has skin blemishes and kinda greasy hair, though I did spend the game wanting her to get her fringe out of her glasses. God damn, that must be so irritating for her. In fact, she looks remarkably more ordinary than her original leaked design did. It creates this somber realization that all those phone pictures of her have those flaws filtered out. Particularly her skin being noticeably whiter in those photos makes me feel sympathy for her in a way none of the moaning about not needing friends ever did.
Seeking a connection with others is a sign of weakness. It's running away. The strongest animals don't form groups. They act alone and need only themselves to survive.
Oh, Caroline, will you please shut the fuck up?
That's because it's presented to the player as just this quietly sad part of her life she doesn't even acknowledge. Having her go,
"If only I looked like this in real life. Ugh, I wish filters would work outside the internet,"
would have just ruined it. So, Maya's getting bullied. Anita is jealous of her. Anita is seeing messages blaming her, and we learn that Maya offed herself. These pieces should come together pretty easily. But again, that insecurity from the writers just seeps in and spoils it. The obvious route to take here is, through her jealousy, Anita was the one bullying Maya, sending her anonymous messages, ruining her art. A damaged person trying to hurt others to feel better, as is often the case. Makes sense? Not what happened. No, Maya and Amelie became friends, which made Anita feel like a third wheel. She wanted not only Maya to notice her, who at this point is being depicted at almost Christ-like levels of martyrdom.
Is it because my classmates teased me? I doubt it. They don't know me. They're just taking their issues out on someone.
She didn't want to lose Amelie, who she'd become very dependent on. I think she even tries to look like her. I mean, assuming the confusingly similar designs of the two was on purpose. Oh, she painted Anita.
The girl in this picture.
Maya and Amelie have this lame little shtick where they write each other flowery letters about how they feel and hide them in each other's books, all while talking regularly, I guess. At a certain point, Maya reaches her limit. Oh, not because of the bullying. I don't know why you'd think it was because of the bullying. No, it's because of a boy she likes. Mentioned just once, and because they took him from her.
Yeah, but they got him.
What does that mean?
I liked him too.
Wait, what do you mean they got him?
I like the concept that Maya was having the same issues Anita was having with her. Idolization of another fueling self-hate. But this plot point isn't even begun to be elaborated on enough for it to make sense. If you're expecting the game to let you sit with any emotions or read between the lines like old times, think again.
I know what I said!
There's a difference between giving the player just enough information to put together a meaningful interpretation of the plot, and this, which is just kind of throwing the dude in here To the point where, personally, I have a bit of a headcanon that Anita saw Maya liked him, and she sexted him to kind of one-up Maya and feel better about herself.
What's that? Oh, you like what you see?
But I'm aware that's truly me doing most of the work here to try and link these three disparate elements together. Because what we're told instead is Maya wrote a poem that hints at her suicide and put it in Amelie's book. Anita decides to steal it, though it's unclear if she even knew what it was saying. But in any case, Maya jumps, dies. It feels like the devs try to micromanage the exact right amount of culpability for Anita here. Just so much that she's kinda guilty, but not too much, which results in this convoluted letter situation. I mean, she should have just been bullying her, or taken her love interest. We're dealing with a story about guilt after all. And like the bullying and not plastering trigger warnings every 10 minutes, you shouldn't pull punches. James didn't accidentally forget to sign a medical document that kinda maybe could have helped Mary. No, he smothered that bitch. Homecoming, which I still rate above Downpour, made the inciting incident an accident, but even they knew enough to make Joshua's death a direct cause of Alex being cruel to him. And that's why this whole letter plot just feels so artificial. It just screams, it's kind of a fault, but not really. Please don't hate Anita too much, guys. But in any case, after this revelation, Anita goes to the roof, pops off, loop starts again.
I jumped off the building.
But this time, something weird happens. Something that truly took me by surprise. The game gets good for a while. I know, I couldn't believe it. Chapter 3 splits off from the main Maya narrative and goes into Anita's backstory, which has been kinda lightly hinted at throughout.
My mom loved me.
Here, the loop is through Anita's old home, watching as both it and her mother's treatment of her deteriorates. I like how we see notes from the mother's diary talking about how her daughter should be able to deal with the abuse, as it's what she had to deal with as a kid.
My mother yelled at me!
It's a surprisingly natural way to bring up the notion of the cycle of violence and abuse creating abusers.
Why won't you listen to a damn thing I say?
Why do you eat so fast? You can't even taste it!
Don't tell me how to eat!
Though it's also more evidence that it really should have been Anita who was bullying Maya, but I'll let that go now. I digress. As you go through this bit, Anita doesn't feel the need to comment on it. She's almost uncharacteristically concise in this section. It does a good job at highlighting her trauma by contrasting with how much she yammers on throughout the rest of the game.
Are you here to punish me?
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
As we go through the loops, we also get smaller and smaller. Again, not commented on, and highlighting how vulnerable she was during these years. It's also the section where the whole cherry blossom motif clicks. Maya's main artistic motif is women with scars that bloom Sakura petals. And throughout the game, we are periodically chased by this Sakura blossom creature. It's in this loop that we realise, oh, the monster is Anita's mother, overcome by her own scars and trauma, and trying to inflict it upon her own child. As an aside, I love this thing. The uncanny way it looks, the way it moves as if it was a buffering video, it actually feels like a Silent Hill creature. I just wish they found a way not to get a close-up of it as it kills you, as the thing is really far more effective at a distance. The shot of the mother's hands against the cabinet walls, portrayed from the perspective of a baby in the womb, looking through the stomach wall, is fantastic. It's the best imagery I've seen come out of a Silent Hill game since 4. And it's just enhanced by the introduction of an Akira Yamaoka song. He was the sound designer of the classic titles, and having a new song from him coming during this section is just amazing.
He inflicted the curse on my womb, and I gave it life!
But speaking of him, you probably noticed that I stopped mentioning the other Silent Hill games as we progressed. And that's because, overall, the game really doesn't feel like Silent Hill. There are some very brief references, the worst one being this note. It's trying to scientifically explain how what happens in Silent Hill could be happening in other places. A concept, by the way, I'm more than happy to accept, I just don't need an explanation for it. But, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. PT didn't feel like Silent Hill either, and it was great. I've long since accepted that the original team, the original trilogy, that's over, and it's not coming back. But, when that imagery was shown, and that music kicked in, I did feel it again. Brief it may be, but for a moment, it did feel like Silent Hill to me. No notes, an actual great section, they managed to pull it off. Well, this shit was lame.
Boo!
It's a mixed bag, like I said. Anyway, this whole sequence leads to a last revelation. Anita had a previously unmentioned brother who was killed by the mother and locked in a fridge. On paper, a fantastically gruesome and upsetting element of her past. In execution, it's mentioned solely in this one scene and never brought up again, before or after. Like Maya's boy crush, it feels added in last minute and isn't allowed to have an impact on the narrative. I have no idea what Anita's feelings about her dead brother are, because all she cares about is her high school friends. And in general, as great as all this exploration of abuse is, it's still, 20% of the whole game? Yet it's far more interesting and evocative than the friendship triangle drama the game concerns itself with most of the time. I really think they should have swapped it. Have the events of Chapter 3 be the focus of the short message, and the Maya stuff a smaller section, a consequence of the main focus. But one can dream. In any case, it leads us to the end of the game. One last chase sequence with the monster. I haven't mentioned these yet because the monster chase sequences are just fine. It reminds me a lot of the chase sequences in Shattered Memories, in that you kinda just feel like you're randomly running around until it just stops. I do love the atmosphere of the second chase. The sound design of these eyes on the walls are so on point, just absolutely disgusting. Unfortunately, the last one really falls on its face. And I've seen a lot of people say they just quit the game at this point and watch the last 5 minutes on YouTube. At first, it seems like it'll be great. The imagery finally goes full Silent Hill Otherworld with an aggressive red motif, industrial elements, and hidden little disturbing details in the background. But then you slowly realize, oh no. This is Slender the 8 Pages. The last stretch of the game has you running around this confusing maze looking for 6 photographs to unlock a Silent Hill 4 door. Nice reference. Your phone will give you a bit of a gist of where they are, but man, you're gonna die here a lot. The monster is constantly either right behind you or spawning in front of you, so attempting to get your bearings or look around for the pictures can only be done by brute forcing your way through a lot of failures. Any fear is kind of just replaced by frustration, which is a damn shame after a pretty good chapter and a promising start to the chase. But we persevere. Anita escapes and gets to see that Maya had noticed her all along.
So, she did notice me.
I hate that. The lesson really should have been that it didn't matter if she noticed her or not, that Anita shouldn't have to be relying on external validation from a stranger so much. I don't know, add it to the list of slip-ups. She goes to the roof again, but finally breaks the cycle, seeing that her friend Amelie forgives her weird, distant connection to Maya's death and is there for her.
I'm gonna kill myself! Let's go shopping.
Oh, okay.
And the game ends. cue credits. Decent little ending message, I guess, that Anita's self-flagellation and guilt was causing this torture, and to escape was to open up to a friend. A cheesier take on Silent Hill 2? For sure, but so is most of the non-Team Silent entries. So, overall, quite a disappointing experience. But all the things I thought this would change, all these big issues I complained about, well, none of them are really major overhauls. It's all tweaks and adjustments needed. Just a hell of a lot of them. Silent Hill, the short message, doesn't make me feel concerned about Silent Hill's future, however. Not the way Ascension did. Though it's not like it makes me feel hopeful either. More, it shows promise that what's to come next might have good stuff in it, even if the overall package leaves plenty to be desired. Up next is Bloober's Silent Hill 2 remake. Now, I don't know what I think about this yet. Bloober Team is not a dev I like. And what we've seen so far either looks fine or seems to be pretty out of tone with the game it's remaking. Seeing that QTE button prompt in the last trailer, man. Oh! I am excited for Silent Hill F in the chat. I thought the trailer looked very interesting, especially how it seems to be taking the Silent Hill vibe and applying it to a completely fresh context. We really do need to escape this purgatory of trying to replicate Silent Hill 2. What really grabbed my attention though, aside from that gruesome last shot, oh god, I love it, was it's written by the man behind Higurashi and Yumineko. Flawed bangers to be sure, but make no mistake, bangers they be, especially Yumineko. So, interesting future ahead. I take this any day over just the void we were in just a few years ago. And I really do hope we see more of the good that short message displayed. But I guess time will tell. Until next time, remember to stay silent. Hill. Oh, and they put Jeff the Killer in it, and that's fucking hilarious.